So thank you so much for joining us for this discussion, Dr. Judith. It's a pleasure to host you and it's a pleasure to learn from you in terms of the journey you've walked. And we'll be glad to learn more about you as a person, but also the journey that you've walked in the pharmacy line. So maybe as an introductory point, maybe you could let us know who you are so that our viewers can get to know who Jody is.
Thank you so much for having me on this session. I'm happy to be part of the Footprints Project. I'm Dr. Judith Getugi, currently serving as the CEO of Kisumu Specialist. I have a pharmacist background and I've been practicing for the last 16 years. This is my 17th year. And pretty much that's much about me. I think we'll learn more as we go into the interview.
Excellent conversation. Thank you. So it's great. You are a pharmacist and now you are the CEO of Kisumu Specialist Hospital. If somebody told you when you were leaving school that you would be the CEO of a level 4 facility in the country, would you have believed them? And was that possibility even in the offing at the moment?
Yes, I would have because I always knew going into campus that I wanted to do pharmacy and that I wanted to be in management. So it has always been my plan to actually be at the top level of management. So I would have believed them. I think the structure we got in high school, our high school was very formative and sort of guiding you to where you want to be. I went to Kianda Girls High School. So from that point, you get to know where your career is headed early on. Yeah,
So that formative experience in high school played a critical role in it. I'm hoping most of our
definitely.
people who go through the same would also say the same. I feel like for me in high school, it wasn't that clear. But in campus, I got to
Right.
refine it, which is amazing. So, as the CEO, what does your typical day look like? What are the key responsibilities that come with the job for you?
So I usually jokingly say that a big CEO is basically a firefighter because by the time people or something is coming to your desk, it's we need help. We can't solve this on our own. We need some help to sort it out. So there's really a balance between admin work, clinical work, and also the board, reporting to the board.
Mm.
So you have to be somebody who can really balance and handle a lot of different things because when we come back from our clinical background, most of us are used to focusing on the clinical side. But once you get into management, now there's that managing people, there's managing the business, there's forecasting, strategy. And then now at the CEO level, you're reporting to the board, which means that you're basically taking the vision and the mission of the facility and distilling it for the staff to be able to implement it.
Mm.
Yeah, so you're basically the bridge between the board and the staff members.
Mm.
So you basically have to have a myriad of skills. You have to have a lot of skills that you're balancing.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's actually as a follow-up to that, I have two questions. One, in terms of what are the key skills that you feel are critical for you in terms of performing your role as a CEO? But also the other question as a follow-up to it is managing the business. What does that entail for you when you say you're managing the business? I understand the clinical side, the employees, but also managing the board and reporting to them.
Okay, so let me start with the first one. In terms of skills, you basically have to be very attentive to detail because you're usually the final signatory for a lot of things that would be happening in the facility. So let's say you want to buy something, you'd be the last person approving. And once your signature is appended, it means then they can go ahead and purchase it. So you
Mm.
have to be very careful at what you're signing, what you're agreeing to. So attention to detail is key. Then people skills, because you're constantly dealing with heads of departments, staff members, your executive team, the board members, other stakeholders outside the where you work, outside the facility. So you definitely have to have people skills. You also have to have what I call like an executive presence. So it means that when you talk, then people are able to listen to you. So people who are shy, people who are timid, you'd have to work to overcome that. Like for me personally, I used to be extremely shy, and I'm an introvert as well. On top of that, so I actually had to build the skill to be able to face people, do media interviews, things like that. So it's something that you grow with over time. Aside from that, you need business acumen because, again, you're running a business. You have to make business decisions every day that directly impact, your staff, that impact the bottom line. Aside from that, also, you have to be strategic. You have to be thinking about the bigger picture, but also being able to think about right now. So you're thinking, okay, 5 years from now, maybe I want to open a new facility, I want to do this. But you also have to think about today, where are my supplies coming from? How is the clinical team handling? Yeah, so those are some of the skills. It's not exhaustive, but there's a huge myriad of skills that you require for this position. Then the other question was about business management. So you have to think about the accounts, the book of accounts, right? So you have to look at your income, your expenses, you have to look at your statutory, whatever you're supposed to submit, like to the government, if it's payee, NSSF, NHIF, etc. So there's that balance again, but you do at least have an executive team who are able to guide you as well, like a CFO or an accountant or an administrator or HR. So different companies have different roles that fill that executive team. So for us, we have a hospital accountant, a hospital administrator, and a nursing director that plus myself that form the executive team. Yeah, so relying on the different skills, it's also important to be able to rely because everybody is an expert in something. So you need to also be able to learn from the other people. It's not just simply imposing what you think is the way to go. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. And the reason as why I'm keen around that aspect of business management is that when we're transitioning out of school as healthcare professionals, we are more inclined to the technical side. So I'd want to maybe practice in a clinical setting as a clinical pharmacist. But ultimately, when you get to management level, somebody doesn't understand actually beyond treating the patient and ensuring they get the quality medicines. There is need to know how the organization will run. If you're working with a team, they need to have their salaries, their government obligations, there are other administrative aspects that need to be addressed. I think that is maybe an area that needs to be looked into, especially for those who are coming out. And I see most of us are also looking into the business side, then opening up our pharmacies and all that, well, entrepreneurial line. So thank you for that. And I'm hoping we'll learn more as we move along.
Yeah, I think actually, if someone is looking to get into management, the best thing would be to start mirroring or shadowing their immediate manager. So if that's what you want to do, then maybe you're a clinical pharmacist, but there's a pharmacy in charge, right? So that person is already in management. They're already doing what you aspire to be doing. So start learning from that person. Or if you're looking to be outside of pharmacy and totally in admin, then you look for somebody like that. Maybe if you're in Gava, a med soup, who you can shadow, and start learning from them. Because what happens, I find most of the time, is people want to sort of form their own path, which is okay. But again, you'll find yourself going through all the challenges that other people have already gone through, which you don't need to go through. You can actually learn from what somebody else has gone through. So if your interest is management, then you need to just start shadowing the people around you who already are having that role. Or if you're looking at a particular company, let's say you want to be the head of business, Novartis, let's say. So probably there's somebody in a similar role in another company or a similar company. You can actually look them up on LinkedIn and just start talking to them. Yeah, and just get to learn.
Thank you. And actually, whatever you said is one of the key things that we're trying with the footprints. I don't need to reinvent the wheel when somebody has walked the journey. Let us learn from them and unpack that possibility. So my next question would be, you as a pharmacist, was pharmacy your first choice or career? And how did you get into that line and what has the experience been for you?
So initially, I wanted to do chemical engineering because I love chemistry. But we actually had a chemical engineer coming to talk to us at school. We had a career day. And when I listened to what her day sounded like, it didn't sound like what I wanted to do. So, because I think I just wanted the people interaction, although chemical engineering has since changed from the time that we were in school, it has diversified the role. Previously, it was mainly focused in oil and gas, but now they're all over, food industry, medical industry, etc. So, but at that point, when I had, what that lady was going through, what her day is like, it didn't seem interesting to me. So I looked for the next thing that had a lot of chemistry in it, and that was pharmacy. And so in Form 3, I knew that pharmacy is what I wanted to do. Yeah.
And that's interesting. So when you transition, you got into pharmacy now and you're pursuing pharmacy. How has the journey been from schooling into practice, and how has the experiences been? Any highlights?
So I think the journey has been really good. It was, let's say, challenging. First year was quite heavy because we used to have like a 7 to 7 schedule because we were with the medics, and then we go and do math and chemistry on top of the normal medical classes. So first year was quite heavy. And then coming back to a very light second year. So I was a little bit confused. They could have actually split up those courses into second year, because second year we had a lot of free time. So I think that's eventually why then they expanded the program into a 6-year program instead of a 5-year program. Of course, I made a lot of friends in school who we're still friends with up to now. And that's one of the things you realize: the people you meet in campus are actually the people who you form close friendships with and over time. And again, being in the same profession, they become your career mentors in a way, career support, career network. Because as you continue to grow in our roles, then you find that people who you knew in campus also are holding now senior roles. So you're also growing your network at the same time. Major highlights, I would say, when I worked in Nakuru. Okay, let me start actually with my first posting, which was Odaya, which was quite of a culture shock for me because I have a light skin, so people assume that I'm Kikuyu. So people would just talk to me in Kikuyu, and I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. It was quite a challenging time when I reported there, but we had Med Soup. She was very instrumental in supporting me because you see, when you transition from school to internship, you don't really get to deal with the admin work, as I was saying. So there were reports that I needed to do. There were meetings that I was part of. There were committees I was part of that I had never experienced, because internship, you basically just are sent to particular parts of the hospital pharmacy or the industry or the community, and you do that. There's no admin exposure. But when you go to like a sub-county or a county hospital, usually as the pharmacist, you become the in charge. So you start doing the rotas, etc. So that was my first challenge. Like, I don't know how to do this reports. So I have Nyeri calling me, telling me, you have to submit this report. We're waiting for you so that we can submit our order to KEMSA. Yeah, so I had to go to Nyeri and actually learn how to do the things. And then I came back. So it was quite a challenging time. But actually, that's what inspired me to set up mentorship for women in pharmacy. I've actually initially started with women in pharmacy, but now expanded to just women in healthcare. So that experience that I had then actually told me that if I had somebody else who has gone through this that I could learn from, it would have really, really helped. Then after that, I switched to private after 8 years of practice, went to private sector. Yeah, and from there, I was at Karen Hospital, chief pharmacist, went into digital health for a little bit, and then now got into the hospital CEO level. So in the digital health, I was COO. So just basically along the lines of management. I've basically 85% of my career has just been in management. Yeah.
That's an
Yeah.
interesting career. It's like when you knew you wanted to interface with people in the management line, your path was being crafted even without you knowing it. Because from internship, you're getting to do the orders and all that, which is an interesting
Yeah.
experience. And I love that in the sense that at least you were now seeing it in that journey. It's upon us as young professionals also see what particular career lines are we going to pursue and how are they opening up opportunities for us in terms of the end goal, which is amazing. But you mentioned something
That's
very
it.
amazing as well in terms of the mentorship program. So how does that work? How would somebody who maybe, for example, we have women in health who are interested in joining and being part of that, what would that look like and what is it?
So one of the challenges I realized is that you want to meet up with somebody, but they're not necessarily in Kenya. So already you have that geographical limitation. So what I did is I set up an online platform that actually allows people to get mentors from across the globe. So whatever your focal area is, you're able to find somebody in that line who can mentor you. So we set up a program called We Are Binti. Basically, we are Binti. Binti is like Swahili for women, or msichana for girl. But yeah, We Are Binti. That was the essence of that thought, because it's focused on women in healthcare. Although we do have some men who participate in the programs, but they are less than 5% of the population. So we set this up in 2020, and it's been running really well. We've so far had about 430 mentees that have gone through the program. So it's going well. So there are different ways to be mentored. There's a one-on-one mentorship, like maybe what we're doing now, one-on-one talk. But then there's also some courses that can be done on the online platform. So there's leadership and discovery, which is usually it's our flagship program, and it's also our starter program. Basically, when you still are trying to figure out where you want to go, what kind of a leader can you be, what career do you want, so there are certain questions that you go through that guide you to develop your values, to develop your goals, things like that. So by the time you finish that program, you'll have your plan maybe for the next 5 years. So you'll be able to know where you're headed. So on top of that, we also have a C-suite role, which is basically for those who are mid-level managers or newly appointed C-level managers and looking to learn more about that role. So we have that as well. We also have interview skills for those who want to go through the interview process. We have several other courses, like we partner with financial institutions to teach people about money management, things like that. So there's a different discussion every time. Like last year, we had a session with Summit Recruitment, just teaching people about what is it that recruiters are actually looking for when you're applying for a job. So we have different sessions like that. Yeah.
And how does one get to join mentorship?
So basically, we have two intakes in a year, April and October. So once we are 1 month away to the intake time, there's usually a form that is on the website that you can click join, and then it will give you some prompts, something to fill in, and then you're able to be waitlisted for an interview. Then once you have the interview, then the people will guide you into the right program. Because sometimes you find if you leave it open, people will choose any number of programs that might not necessarily be where they need to go. So it's usually a discussion. We call it a discovery call, where you meet with the mentee, you have a discussion with them and try to understand what exactly is their driving force, where are they trying to be, and then guide them into the right program. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you for that. And I think while at the end of the session, maybe we'll just check the website. We have the link, and I'll also include it so that most of our members will be watching this video can access it and see if it's a fit for them in terms of their career journey. So thank you for that.
Sure.
So the other question that
Thank
I'll
you.
begin, based on your practice and also your pharmacy training and education, are there any particular aspects that you feel needs to be improved on in terms of education curriculum, and what would those changes be?
I would think we really need to include the financial bit. Yeah, I know we do a bit of it over time, but you realize if you leave school going to run a pharmacy business, let's say like a community pharmacy, we have no background in finance at all. So a lot of the other degrees, non-medical degrees, they do common courses, right? In pharmacy, in medicine, we don't get to do that. So I think that's something that definitely should be included. Then I think also immersion into the practice side, because you find that we only end up in maybe year 4, year 5 is when we're actually getting around into the hospital, into the industry or whatever. But I feel like actually from the beginning, we should be able to interact with whichever area you think you might want to end up. So the best way for somebody to determine where they want to go is from first year, get some industry experience, get some community experience, get some, hospital experience. Doesn't mean that you actually have to do any work, but you're just learning from the people you're with. So I think having that immersion can really help us form the idea. I think pharmacy for me was very theoretical, you know, and then now finally getting into practice, then it's a shift from, you know, learning those formulas, you know, and then now coming to something totally different, which is now practice, interacting with people, dispensing to patients, you know. Yeah, so I think depending on where you want to specialize, it's important for us to be able to interact with those different roles. And I think the pharmacy community has really tried to support that, because usually during the annual conference and a few other PSK events, you're able to learn from other pharmacists. And I think that's very, very important. It's very key.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think one of the key things actually from our work within African Pharmaceutical Network is trying to see how do we bridge the academia, practice, and also the regulation. Because one thing that we noted is that we're getting out of school, yes, you have the technical, theoretical knowledge, but you've never interacted with the practice environment. So how then do we make that move? I think there's more need for intentional engagement, including partnership with different private sector entities, and that is what will unlock possibilities. And I saw it from one of the universities that I really love and actually engage a lot with, that is Stanford and Oxford. You find for their executive programs, the industry will always be coming, bringing in case studies, bringing in conversations and thought leadership. Ultimately, when somebody is leaving school, they already know, I am interested in this particular line of work and I want to pursue it. And they also know a contact who is working there, who can walk the journey with them. I think that is a good
Exactly.
thing in terms of the career matching, but also the interface between the two. Let's see, we hope it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
So
actually leave school with the ability to have somebody who is your career mentor, you
yeah,
know, because you're focused on that line and they'll tell you, you know, avoid this, do it this way, you know. I think that's significant, yeah. And it's a good thing that what APN is doing, and very, very happy for the achievements you've made so far.
we're hoping it helps to grow and also impacts the lives of the people that we serve. Yeah. So maybe as a follow-up to this, looking at your journey and how it has moved for you, definitely the success is a team sport. It means somebody has played a role in particular areas. Are there any specific individuals who have been integral in your life and how have they supported your journey in that?
Okay, so first, definitely my parents, because they were never, you have to do this job. No. They were always open to listening to what I wanted to pursue, and they supported me all along, and have continued to support. In fact, I usually always call when I have something to query, because both of them were also, you know, career people. And yeah, so I do ask them sometimes, how did you handle this kind of situation? At the same time, my husband as well, because you see, being in medical, sometimes you have those night shifts, you have, you know, extended weekend hours and all. And some people might not be very understanding, but he was always supportive of whatever I needed to do to get my career ahead. While in campus, also, I had one of our lecturers who was a very key mentor for me, Dr. Bosire, Dr. Kefa Bosire. And I was able to sit down with him and just learn from him. You know, at the time, he was teaching us pharmacognosy, but he was also part of CAVI, Kenya AIDS Vaccine Initiative. So I was able to, you know, learn how do you juggle these two capacities? How did you end up choosing this role? Things like that. So I got to understand, okay, so these are the things I need to look for in myself to figure out where I want to be. And interestingly enough, he said that you should probably think of getting into something health tech related, you know. And funny enough, when I ended up there, I called him and I was like, Doc, guess what? Just where you said I would be. So he's been very instrumental, even up to date. We talk frequently. When I have queries, I'm always able to talk to him. And that has been one of my greatest mentors, I would say, over my career. Then also Dr. Chaudhry for NEL, Nairobi Enterprise Limited. He's also been very supportive. I just like how he has a very sage way of dealing with issues. I don't know if that comes with age or it's his personality, but that's just how he is. And I've been able to learn a lot of that from him. And we met just in a very funny way. I'd gone to audit their facility with KEBS, and we just ended up talking and eventually became friends and just built that sort of mentor relationship. So yeah, I think those two. Then in my current role right now, there's Dr. Bita. He was actually the previous CEO, but when we met, it was like I could really learn from this person. Aside from just taking over the role from him, but as a person, like he has that mentor attitude. So kind of like guide you to the right choice or the right decision. Yeah, so I think maybe I've forgotten a few for sure. I mean, there are so many people who've been part of my journey, but I mean, those are the key that I can think of. And then outside of the healthcare space, there's actually a few female mentors who I've really sort of relied on a lot. I don't know if you know about the Future Females program, but there's a lady by the name Lauren. She's the founder of the Future Females program, and just learning from her actually helped me to set up Wea Binti. So she's South African based, but really helped for me to set it up. Then there's also WASIP, which is a Women of Color in Pharmacy. So as well, you get a lot of mentors from that group, and the sessions are always powerful, breakthrough kind of sessions. So I've had a huge circle of support around me, and I think that's always very critical. Yeah.
That's commendable. And I think I heard of WhatsApp last year when the conference came to Nairobi, Kenya, and actually one of my colleagues traveled all the way from the US to come to Kenya. And that is when I realized how impactful this forum is. I'm hoping next time you
Yes.
guys will make it open for us men as well to join and learn.
There were actually men. There were some men who came.
Oh, okay.
I was actually one of the speakers last year, but there were some men who were there. Yeah,
Oh,
so
I
feel
didn't
free
know
to
that
attend.
yet.
Guys who came from there were there were some men. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And one other key thing that I would just want to mention at this particular moment, you've mentioned Dr. Kefa Bosire. I think he's been instrumental in lives of so many other people. I've had a couple of interviews and a couple of conversations with other pharmacists, and I believe he's been instrumental in guiding people and pushing them into the right opportunities. And that is commendable. I'm definitely going to reach out to him at a personal level as well, just to let him know
Please
that the
do.
impact that he's making is transforming lives and making people see possibilities in themselves. Thank you for that. So as we move beyond that kind of conversation in terms of the journey as you've been, the people who have supported you, to where you are, definitely you had challenges. What are some of the key challenges that you've surmounted that you've actually dealt with that you think maybe you've learned from that people can work around as well?
Okay. I think one of the challenges that we face, especially as women, is always this like an age thing. So it's either you're too young for this role or you're too old for this role. There's never like you're at a perfect age for this, you know.
Yeah.
So like first when I took up that COO role and then when I took up this CEO role, everyone is like, hey, aren't you too young for this? You know, you should be over 40 or something. And then the other ladies that I've spoken to who are over 40, they're told, oh, now you're too old for this. You know, so it's like there's never that right step point. So for me, what I say is don't limit yourself by saying, no, I'm too young for this or I'm too old for this. Just go for it. You never know what the result will be because there's that quote, famous quote that you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So if you already tell yourself no, then you're already missing the shot. You know, you've already closed yourself out to that. Yeah. So another challenge possibly is I think how the healthcare sector works in Kenya is a little bit challenging in the sense of how we relate, or let's say the referral or the collaboration between private and public. So the referral system, NHIF, it's a little prohibitive to the patient. So that can be quite challenging. I'm hoping that this new system would actually be more beneficial and easier for the patient because health equity is one of the things that I'm very passionate about. And, you know, creating access and affordability to healthcare services. So I hope that as we move forward, these new acts and new bodies can actually help us, achieve that. Because without a healthy nation, we can't really grow economically. See what happened during COVID. If everybody's at home, everybody's sick and dying, the economy also stalls. So yeah. Other than that, also face things like intimidation. So at management level now, you would make a decision and a male subordinate would feel, okay, well, I'm not going to take reprimand from a female boss, such kind of thing. So I would say it's not that prevalent in Nairobi, but in the upcountry areas, it's quite challenging and something I've had to deal with. But I'm a person who stands my ground, and I'm a person who uses data to back up my decisions. So at the end of the day, you'd actually find, okay, this is actually the way we should go. And I also consult a lot. I think consulting people, asking them, how did you deal with this, really, really helps. Yeah, those are some of the challenges. I mean, challenges are quite a number, but I think those are the three major ones that I've faced. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your sharing. And actually, it takes courage also to share some of the challenges that you're dealing with in life. But one key thing that I want to do as a follow-up to this, I had a conversation with like junior colleague and actually a lady for that matter. And we're having a conversation. She did an interview. She was being offered a job, but the pay was not fair. And it's become a trend for some of the conversations that I've had. I don't know if it's something that you've seen as well, and how do we overcome it? You find that when ladies go for interviews, like ladies going for interviews and all that jobs, the offer they're given is unfair. It's almost at times actually even half of what it would be offered to a male person in the same role. And then it becomes a trend where most employers are looking for female employees because they feel whatever offer they give, the ladies will be taking it. So how do we work around this
So,
when it's becoming a trend here?
yeah, I think it's unfortunate that that is happening, but it is happening. But it's a two-way approach. So you, as the interviewee, need to know your worth when you're applying for a particular job. At the same time, you also need to do your market research.
Mhm.
So be able to not confront, but tell them that I know at APN this is how much you are paying your previous maybe accountant, you
Mhm.
know, or I know in the last few years this has been the general range
Yeah.
for this role. So during the interview, once they bring up the salary issue, if they don't bring it up, don't bring it up during the interview. But maybe during the negotiation phase, after you've maybe been told you've given an offer and now you start the discussion, that's the point when you can start having this back and forth with them. Aside from that, also, I tend to use recruitment firms
Mhm.
rather than going for direct application because the firm has also their reputation to uphold. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't want to be associated with firms that are not, at good level or good standing for both female and male
Yeah.
candidates. Yeah. And one thing I love about Kisumu Specialist is the accounts are open. Everybody knows this is the pay that has been there and how long has it been there.
Mhm.
So there's no like, oh, previous CEO was a male, now it's a female, and so we change. No, they're actually quite standardized. Everything is very procedural, so they don't have that kind of what can I say, segregation or division. Yeah, so it's two pronged. It's first of all you yourself. If you're willing to accept that,
Mhm.
then unfortunately, you've put yourself in that position as well. And I know sometimes you don't have a choice. You need that job, you need to support your family, or you need to, have money for something specific. So it's always that walking a tightrope
Thank
kind
you.
of thing. But I think with years of experience, you get to a point where you can actually be able to negotiate. You can be able to walk away. And it comes with financial management. If you're able to plan yourself well, then you're not forced into picking a new role. So most people usually walk away from their job because they feel, oh, I'm going to earn more on the other side, right? But maybe they have not even researched what was someone else getting in that role. So you're already happy that I'm being paid more than what I was getting before. And then you get in and you're told, oh, this is what the other guy used to. And then now you start being demoralized, feeling unworthy, feeling like you're being discriminated against. And then your work now becomes toxic. It becomes a toxic environment. So I think picking a job, picking an occupation, it's very critical. Before you just make that decision, are you fulfilled? Do you think it's something that will fulfill you? Yes, but not everybody has that luxury. Obviously, at the beginning of your career, you'll just have to pick whatever you get. But with time, you'll be able to make that choice. Yeah.
For sure. And there's a conversation we had with a friend of mine. He was saying at the end of the day, your bills have to be paid. So you have to weigh your options. But I think there's one thing that is important. In the next, probably, I would be glad to invite you for a webinar or a session just to enlighten most of the people. And this one will be more focused on ladies. I know as we are getting off our university, finishing off our internships, we are moving to the marketplace, and we're going to fight for jobs, look for opportunities as much as possible. I think there's also this tendency of being disparate for the opportunities. If we have the integrity and actually the dignity of knowing what we're looking for, we'll be able to negotiate better. And I think that is a skill that we need to empower, to actually inculcate more in our young professionals and young pharmacists, especially ladies. So I'd be glad to have you in such a session as well moving forward in the next session.
Anytime, anytime. And actually, one thing we should know is that most organizations are usually willing to negotiate about 10 to 20% of what they've actually offered you. So just have that courage. Like in that interview skills course that we have, it actually teaches you negotiating skills, salary negotiation. Yeah, which is one of the things for me I also really struggled with initially, but over time I got to learn how to do it. So it's not a thing of like saying now I'm earning 50, so next job I'm looking for 100. No, because even the employer would be like, why are we doubling your salary? Yeah, so you have to actually look at what are you bringing to the organization? What's your offer? Because it's a two-way street. They are paying you, yes, but what is it that you're bringing over and above what everybody else is bringing? And that's what makes you marketable. But also with the gig economy, this is the best time to actually start adding other roles to yourself. Let's say you do like proofreading for medical documents. You could be doing transcribing, translation. There's so many things that can pay you by the hour and that can help you top up. Maybe if you're not so happy with the salary that you've got or you're currently not working, gig economy can really help with that. So I think it's in this time, this era, it's very open. It's much more open than I think it was for us many years ago to actually be able to have those multiple positions running at the same time. As long as obviously you're not in conflict with your employer, it should be okay.
Beyond being in conflict, at the end of the day, you're able to deliver for the employer, because if you signed a contract, there are deliverables that have to be met. So that is a component that has to be held at that point. So just as a subsequent question to this, at the moment, because of the dynamics that you're dealing with, people are looking at opportunities within the country, but also international. If somebody came to you to ask whether they should stay in the country or explore opportunities in the international market, what would be your advice to such a person? And what are some of the factors to consider before making such a move?
I don't think it's a yes or no kind of thing. It's more like what is it that you're going to pursue? Is it available locally or not? Because most times you find when you go internationally, you have to backtrack the experience that you already have to zero, most times. And they want you to, again, get licensed, they want you to go through exams, etc. But if you're in Kenya or in East Africa, or even Africa, you're able to just transition much easier. So it's really about, is it what you want to pursue not available in Kenya or not available in Africa? Then yes, go by all means pursue it abroad. But let's say you want to do clinical pharmacy, you can easily get opportunities locally, grow locally. You want to do regulatory still, you can get opportunities locally. But let's say you want to do something specific like health equity pharmacy, let's say. I have actually one of my mentees who actually is doing that. She's in health equity, health financing. So in Kenya, you wouldn't really have much opportunity or where to even place yourself, you know. So she's in the US and has actually had good opportunity to grow herself in that career. So it really depends on what it is that you want to pursue. Then secondly, you have to think about, okay, aside from the professional part, you're also a person, you know. So what are your family requirements? Let's say you want to start a family or you're getting married or you have kids, young kids. You have to think about all that because it's a balance. And that means you'll be heavily reliant on your partner to support the family while you're um, setting yourself up abroad. The other thing is, I find in international roles, work life balance can be a challenge because you're trying to live a certain lifestyle and you're doing 10,000 jobs just to sustain yourself. So I think, again, it just depends on the person, the kind of person you are, how fast you want to achieve your goals, and what are those goals specifically to help you then decide, is it best for me to go abroad? Is it best for me to stay at home? Yeah.
Thank you for that. I think mostly it's a personalized decision, but it has to consider all the factors that are there: personal life, career aspirations, and all that. Also, understanding of the markets. As I've noted, at times we also look for opportunities, and you're not so clear where the opportunities are. So you'll transition maybe from Kenya to the US, but you left the opportunities here in Kenya. Now you're in a
Yeah.
market where the competition is cutthroat, and you're not so sure whether you get them or whether you're not going to get them as well. So that is key. Thank you so much for that. So as we coming
Yeah.
towards, yes.
Yeah, I was saying I actually had the opportunity to go study in Yale.
Mhm.
But then I looked at, how long it's going to take me to actually do the pharmacy degree because you have to start with a life science undergraduate and then now do the pharmacy as a master's degree. So I looked at that and I was like, wow, that's a long time. And then also being in the US, for all that time, although I have family there, but it just didn't seem like where I wanted to be. Looking at how my siblings were going through life, it seemed hectic. You couldn't just on a weekend, you know, um, go call David and like, hey, let's go for Nyamachoma kind of thing.
Yeah.
It has to be like super planned, like 3 weeks in advance for schedules to align and all that. So Kenya has its good side, yes, you work 8 to 5, 9 to 5, or whatever your hours are, but there's also that work-life balance. You can take a drive up country, meet your grandparents, meet your parents, whatever, and just have that time to just, clear your mind. And it can happen anytime. You can wake up on Friday and say, okay, I'm going up country, I'll be back, you see. But when you're abroad, you don't have that option. And it can be quite isolating, especially if you don't have anyone to support you. And at that time, I was really young. I think I was 17. I did my SATs. I passed, but then my parents also were a bit like, oh, I don't know if we want to send a 17-year-old girl
Out to the
by
country.
herself, considering there's no family around Yale at that time. But yeah, but I think it eventually worked out because if I didn't come to your end, I may not have met Dr. Basire. I'd have not met the friends that I've made and who have really been instrumental into getting me where I am today.
Thank you so much for that. So my question would be, as Dr. Judy at the moment, what does success mean to you?
For me, success would be freedom of my time because time is what we can't get back. Money, you can always make it back. But time is the one thing we can't get back. So for me, I always aspire to be in a role or, let's say, sustaining myself in a way that does not take away from my time. So for me, I've always planned to retire early. That way, I have time with my family. I have time to do more of the things that I love. And so that goes with setting up businesses or additional revenue streams that you can rely on. And yeah, so I'm working towards that. For me, that's what success would look like. That I can wake up today, just go and check on a couple of businesses, and then go to do whatever else I want to do with myself, rather than a typical straight 8 to 5. scenario. Although now my current role is not 8 to 5, it's basically 24 hours because at the moment, you can be called to sort out something.
Mm.
Yeah.
No, thank you for that. And maybe another follow-up question. Beyond work, what does Judy do? When Judy is not in Kisumu Specialist Hospital, where can we find you?
Well, I do run We Are Binti, which is a passion project for me actually. So when I'm doing that, it doesn't feel like work. It's something that I just enjoy, love doing it. So even if I was to stop working and just be working for myself, We Are Binti is still something that I would still be doing, even if it didn't pay me, even if whatever. It's a passion thing for me. At the same time, I have Sis Pharma, which is a digital health company. So I moved out of the day-to-day role and I'm in the board now.
Mhm.
So I'm not really involved in the day-to-day per se, but just the strategic planning and all. So that's also something else I'm working on. And then just last end of last year, I was invited to join a health equity NGO
Mhm.
as the chairperson of the board, just basically to guide the setup, the foundation stage, just so that they can have the right direction as they're setting it up. So basically trying to solve health equity through innovation. So that's what they're working on currently. And again, it's something that is part of my career vision for myself. So it seemed like a very good alignment, being able to support their vision. So yeah, that's basically what I do. Although I have run a couple of restaurants in my lifetime, I love to cook. So maybe there's a future restaurant somewhere at some
Mm.
point. I don't know.
Mm.
But yeah, I have a lot of passions. I have a lot of things I do just for enjoyment, and cooking is one of those things. Also, writing, I do write a lot. So hopefully, you'll have a book from me in a few years or so.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. I think we have a couple of interests. I used to enjoy cooking just to decompress and actually relieve myself when I was in campus.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when somebody joined the house, I've been kicked out of the kitchen. So
You can reclaim your spot on Sunday or Saturday, one of the days.
I'm fighting for that actually. But when I go
Yeah,
home to
you
the
should.
village, I cook for my mom at least once in a while. So it gives me the
Mm,
chance to. It's amazing.
okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah, don't give up
then,
your passion. By the way.
yeah, I'll go back to it
Yeah.
for sure. So as we
Mhm.
come to the end of this, for the young pharmacists who is asking themselves, how do they get to where Dr. Judy has been? What are the key specific advices that you'd share to such a person that would make them unlock possibilities for themselves?
I think the first thing is to just give yourself the opportunity. Don't stand in your own way. When something comes up, most of the time we tend to talk ourselves out of it. So try to change that inner voice from being negative to positive and be conscious about it, because a lot of times we'll get an opportunity like now, maybe when you got the idea for APN and you took time, you talked yourself out of it, you're like, is this really what I should be doing? Can I even do it? You talk to your friends and family, they're like, there's no need of doing this thing. You just focus on Novartis. So those inner voice or inner critics sometimes can hold us back a lot. So just be conscious about it. And when you see it coming, that negative talk, immediately switch to something positive. So just have a list of things that you like about yourself, that are positive, that encourage you. And anytime that you see yourself going towards that negative talk, you switch yourself immediately. I am enough, something like that, or I am worth it, or yeah, I'm good at my job. So once you hear that voice, then you immediately switch yourself to the positive. So eventually that voice will change to being positive, and you'll find that you're not standing in your way. The other thing is, don't try to what can I say, to control outcomes so much, because a lot of times we're like, okay, now I have to go like this. You see, I told myself that yes, I want to be in management, but I didn't say I want to be at Kisumu specialist. I didn't say I want to be where. I just said I want to be in management, and this is the kind of management I hope to do, where I can interact with patients, where I can interact with staff. And I left it at that. I didn't specify that, okay, I have to be here. Because a lot of times that's what we do, looking at our parents growing up, you're like, oh, maybe I want to work where my dad was working, I want to work where my mom was working. But now when you don't achieve that, then you feel disappointed in yourself. And that already now brings back that, again, negative self-talk. And then finally, leverage your networks. So as you're getting that career mentor, have that person in that room that you want to be in, talking about you. You see the way like we have now Dr. Bosiri or Dr. Chaudhry or all the other mentors I've worked with. They're there fighting for you, even if you're not capable of getting into that room, but there's someone with you in mind. So leveraging your networks is very important. Going to like a PSK conference at the end of the year, have your list of people you want to meet and why you want to meet them. So that when you have the opportunity to meet with them, you can ask the questions you want to ask. Don't let it just be a holiday making thing. And yes, it's good to relax for sure, but maybe there's no other opportunity you'll have to talk to these people. Let's say you want to talk to Dr. Machogu, and in your normal day-to-day life, you don't ever meet with him. So it's an opportunity to walk up to him and say, hey, doc, how did you manage to set up a community pharmacy when you're in school? Or Dr. Daniela, maybe you want to, I don't know, learn something specific. So that's what I usually do. When I go for a conference, on the first day, I get to see, okay, who are the speakers? What are they talking about? Is it something I'm interested in? Can I look for this person later and learn from them? So I just usually have a list of like 5 names, and I purpose to actually go meet those people at the end of, or during the session, during lunch break or tea break or whatever. And I found made very good connections just like that, by the way. You just talk to someone and you realize, oh, by the way, you're also looking for the same thing that I'm looking for. So how can we work together to get it done? Yeah, so I think those 3 things, negative self-talk, not trying to control the outcome so much, and also leveraging your networks, very, very important. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Judy. It's been a pleasure, and actually I've learned from you a lot. I'm also looking at that aspect on intentional networking, and I think I'm going to make the best of it. And I'm glad that in a way, some of the reasons as to why I'm doing the footprint, it's also an opportunity for me to connect and learn from people like you, and to get to know how better can I be, but also beyond myself, can I make this accessible to other people. So I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you for joining us for the conversation. And you'll definitely see this out in the next 1 day or so, either within the day or tomorrow. And I'm hoping it will make a difference in the lives of the people watching it. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.